series, or probably the entire week, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, we just hit live on YouTube too. So now we're live on YouTube. We're also live on Instagram. It's our Sunday night live stream. Sunday Night Live, as we also like to call it, as we recap what was, I'd say, a pretty frustrating week. I think everybody's feeling the same.
Yeah, we could put that lightly. Yeah. just a little bit frustrating. Like outside of Bryce Miller, not exactly an overwhelming positive from a week of baseball. Logan was okay. Like Logan was fine, did enough, but man, there's like overly concerned. No, concerned in the moment. Yes.
I'm not overly concerned about the season. Like, I think they're going to be fine. The issue is, it's like we keep talking about. This team does not get off to hot starts. We've seen it now multiple years in a row, and they could do themselves so many favors. If they could finish April 3 games over 500, 2 games over 500, that does so much more for you than finishing 4 games under and you're already playing from behind. You know how everybody says around Memorial Day, you start to see the vision and the shape of who's going to be competitive this year, who's going to be in it, who might not. Memorial Day creeps up faster than you might think. So it would just be so refreshing to see them get off to a good start in April and just set the tone. But they're playing for now, for 10 games in, they're playing from behind.
And thankfully, the Blue Jays aren't exactly off to the world's hottest start either. And the Mariners will have the top 3 in the rotation going against a struggling offense, to say the least. Struggling offense. So, and then another off day when they travel back on Thursday, which is nice. Nice, refreshing, slow ease into the April month. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot away both on YouTube and on Instagram. Again, we try and do this every Sunday. We've managed to do it every Sunday since we started doing this, and every Sunday throughout the season, be here to answer some questions. We do have one here on YouTube to start. Do we really expect Emerson Hancock to be a ready quality MLB starter? So here's where I come on Emerson Hancock. So he right now, for how his prospect profile had looked, he was trending towards being a 5 starter once he had some injury issues in the minor leagues and his velocity was taking down. The Mariners drafted him as a thought to be an ace, but instead of being an ace, he's been more of, again, like about a 5, right, give or take. But Emerson Hancock was not supposed to start this season on the big league roster. They're like, if he was truly ready to be a big league starter, I feel like the Mariners would have. I don't know if he would have been in the minors. If he was really, really ready to go, I don't think he would have been in the minor leagues. I think he would have been a valuable asset to a team that had a starter get hurt, or B, you put him in the bullpen or something, which the bullpen might eventually be his home if he can't hold his velocity. His velocity has been the real issue. But as we've seen here in the first couple of starts, he's not quite all the way there yet to be a major league starter. He's still got some stuff to work on, whether it be longevity, holding his velocity more, or just being more consistent with his pitches. And as Ryan Divish was talking about, now that Hancock goes down, they can more closely monitor his innings, because he's not a guy who's also like, oh, go out there and throw 210 innings. He's not at that point for this season. So now they can actually watch his innings, which I think it is. But I think people were hoping that when they saw the velocity spike in spring training, but he's definitely still got some stuff to work on.
To answer the question of, do we think Emerson Hancock is a major league ready starter, to get the exact wording right, to be a ready quality MLB starter? Well, at least to start this season, the answer to that is not yet, because it was going to be Brian Wu, obviously. Wu's on the IL right now. So Hancock's here to fill Wu's spot until he gets back. And it doesn't sound like it's going to be that much longer for Wu. Maybe another start, maybe 2. He'll probably miss his next start. Maybe he misses another. Shouldn't be that much longer. So that's what Hancock was here to do to start. I think by the Mariners positioning him toward AAA to start the year before the Wu injury, that's what they were thinking too, that they were going to get him a little more work. I would assume when Wu comes back, that's going to be the case too. So look, Hancock's doing the best job he can, but there is a difference between Brian Wu and Emerson Hancock right now. So he is a 6 starter, at least at the moment, that is playing up to a 5 with the injury of a guy that's usually going to be in your regular starting rotation.
Let's see. Now, thoughts on Josh Rojas on the mound?
Well, he's been okay through 2 outings aside from, I guess, the one tank he gave up today, but he's actually been all right.
Looking at his velo, I do think Sauce could get a hit off him.
475 though, like he said.
475 might be a little bit, but Josh wasn't exactly rushing it up there.
Well, did you see the? I don't even know what's it called. I would say Epis. I don't even know if it was that one that ended the bottom of the 8th inning with the pop out today. That was 40 miles an hour. You see that?
Yeah, I did, and that's the one Sauce is like, yeah, it's gone.
Well, Sauce did say he only tops out at 62. To Rojas' credit, I saw him getting up to the 70s today. So I'm going to say there's a little harder than that. But he did get as low as 40 miles an hour when in the game. But hey, like he's unfortunately, for circumstances of the games, had to pitch twice this week. But he's looked solid up there for a position player pitching. I'll give him credit.
See a couple comments here asking about replacing Sebi Zavala already. I don't think shuffling around the backup catchers is at the top of the Mariners' priority list at the moment. Yeah. Like that's like for someone who's going to play once a week, which is what Sebi's going to do. He might get in on the getaway day in Toronto on Wednesday, but overall, I have a really hard time seeing them doing any sort of shuffling. There's just not enough innings there for that to be anywhere near the Mariners' priority list. To like Sebi, he doesn't have options. They would have to DFA him to get him down, and they don't want to just burn a player put him on waivers like that. That just doesn't make any sense.
And they're certainly not doing that 10 games in. They're especially not doing it with a backup catcher 10 games in.
No.
Yeah. So that's not happening. Like for a backup catcher to get demoted off a team, it would have to be something pretty significant. And I don't think there's going to be like anything with Sebi Zavala that says he can't be our number 2 catcher this year.
Do you guys remember Tuffy Ghostwitch? It would have to be that level. I don't think Sebi has gotten down quite that low yet to warrant that.
Oh, are we already triggering memories for you? Are we going Tuffy and Abe Toro?
That's an ASU alum right there. Well, Tuffy Ghostwitch. Yeah, it is. Man, he was not good.
We're just going. I was gonna say, are we gonna go down the list on this live stream? Do we want to talk about Abe Toro hitting leadoff for the A's?
Yeah, that was news to me, and he's done pretty well, to be honest. So maybe he might just prove me wrong this season.
I think we need to get a camera on TJ for a live stream of him watching the game during the A series. If Abe Toro has some clutch hit against the Mariners, even if it's in the 3rd inning and he doubles to bring home a run that puts the A's up like 2-1 or something, TJ's gonna lose his mind. So, I demand a reaction video to that.
Let's see. There's a question here about why not have Garver catch on Cal's off days. I could not be more against the idea. I would really rather Mitch Garver spend every single day he plays at DH. I don't want him behind the plate, not for one inning this season. I think that's a terrible idea. For people people want to complain about this lineup. Garver goes back there. He takes a ball off his foot. He's got an injury history, gets hurt, and is out on the shelf for a month plus. Is that going to make everyone happier? So we could catch a day a week? I don't think that's a good idea. Also,
Sebi Zavala is a better defender than Mitch Garver is at catcher. So additionally, that doesn't make much sense. Just Garver's strength is his bat. Let the guy hit and keep him healthy because that is how he best serves this team. If you want to bring somebody up from the minor leagues to catch at some point, or if you even need it, and you may not need it again, Zavala's probably the number 2 catcher all year. But if you have to resort to that, you bring somebody up from the minors to catch. Don't resort to putting Garver back behind the plate because that's how most of his injuries have occurred over the years is from catching, not from DHing. So yeah, I'm with you. Just let Garver DH. That's how he's going to provide his most value.
Here's a good one that thankfully hasn't related to the Mariners too much. Wow, what do we make of these pitcher injuries and them all stacking up?
This could honestly be a full podcast topic at some point. So I've had some thoughts about this over the last couple days. We listened to Jeff Passan do an interview this week on Pardon My Take, and I think he was spot on with this. And I think he's right. It's not going to happen next year. It may not happen for 5 to 10 years. But Jeff Passan's talked about the team that cracks the code, because it will eventually happen, that cracks the code on how to prevent arm injuries for pitchers, that team's going to win multiple titles because it's affecting the game like monumentally right now. these arm injuries, Tommy John surgeries, missing pitchers for a season. Because it feels like to me that the human body's finally like past its limit for how much it can take. Like pitchers and baseball players and athletes are stronger and more athletic than they've ever been before. But it feels like they've finally reached the tipping point because it's almost that they're throwing too hard to sustain this for this long. It's not the pitch clock. I will definitively say that. I don't think the extra 8 seconds between guys taking time between pitches is what's causing arm injuries. Like if anything, the pitch clock would cause more fatigue in pitchers. I don't think it would cause arm injuries. I think it is a couple things. I think it's again exceeding what the human body can do as a pitcher. And I also think, like, go back 2 years. I think taking sticky stuff out of the game is affecting this. You remember when Tyler Glasnow got hurt in 2021 and he had that kind of rant in one of his post-game press conferences on video that said, "Oh, taking away sticky stuff cold turkey like that absolutely played a factor to me getting injured." It feels like over the last couple of years, there's been more injuries to pitchers and more Tommy John surgeries, and maybe it's because they don't have a grip on the ball. Like, you don't have to let spider tack be a thing in the game, but, like, what Glasnow said he'd use was sunscreen and rosin. That seems perfectly reasonable enough to get a grip on the baseball. So, allow some form of that to come back if you think that can prevent injuries. Doesn't have to be spider tack, but something else. I think it's a combination of those 2 things.
If I'm going to assign percentages, I'm going to say pitch clock 5% because when you say fatigue, you know, overusing the arm that much certainly would lead some impact. So, like not allowing the arm to rest enough between pitches, that has its effect. I'll say 5% there. I'll say 10% sticky stuff removal. That doesn't hurt. But, the other 85% is the everlasting chase for velocity and spin. Teams are going to need to find the balance of like, what's the maximum without putting pitchers at risk. And as soon as they find that number, and combine the longevity with stuff while not being over the top, then I think that'll be it. But the problem is not all this is something that teams can control, to be honest. It starts at the high school level and like middle school level, these guys trying to throw harder and harder and harder down there. When if we're talking about the human body developing at the big league level, what about when you're a high schooler? High schoolers, if you're 18, you probably shouldn't be throwing 90. Like probably not. Your body is probably not built to do that. And yet there are kids who do that. And as they go through the minors and attempt to make it to the big leagues, the chase for velocity causes you to get hurt. It just makes too much sense. I mean, I think if you were to draw a correlation line, it would look pretty similar. If you're saying increase of average fastball velocity, increase in spin rate, and increase in injury, I think it'd be pretty correlated. So that's my thoughts on that.
Forget 90 miles an hour. There's kids throwing 100 miles an hour in high school. Hunter Green was throwing 100 miles an hour when he got drafted out of high school. And
Right.
18-year-olds probably aren't built to sustain that. So you're right that there is going to have to be some balance of figuring out where does the need for velocity kind of negatively overlap with staying healthy and durability, because you're going to have to find the balance. I also saw an interesting take on Twitter about this too this week. I'm curious if you saw it. 2, I'm curious what your thoughts are. So for people that follow the NFL too, people know that running backs have become just about the least valued position in the league. Guys get hurt too easily. Their shelf lives are not long, and as a result, they're not getting paid. We've seen some pushback from the running back group about that over the last year or 2, saying this is not fair. We should be getting more money. Like, it's not our fault that this is how the position is, and we get used a lot. I saw a take on Twitter that asked the question of, are starting pitchers going to eventually turn into running backs if this doesn't stop? In the sense of, are teams going to stop paying free agent starting pitchers massive money because injuries pile up too often and too easily to give that type of investment into a potential $200 million arm or contract? I don't know. Yeah, I would say maybe.
It's a good point. We'll have to see. I think another way to solve this, expand the rosters, expand pitching staffs more specifically, 6-man rotations and bigger bullpens. I think would actually, if you want to keep up this kind of stuff, I think that would go a long way into helping. We're talking an extra day of rest for everybody throwing the ball this hard. You can keep the stuff up, but you don't have to go as frequently, and your arm has more time to recover.
Yeah. Do you have any take on that, though? Like, do you think if something doesn't change, starting pitchers could turn into running backs in the sense of teams are going to stop paying them big money? in free agency.
They might not pay him as much, but there's just too many differences between those positions and how much value they bring. I mean, the starting pitcher is the only guy who touches the ball every single out, every single pitch, right, of his start. Running backs don't touch the ball every time, but starting pitchers touch the ball every single time. So they probably have the most impact on the game. So it's just kind of hard to envision, to be honest.
That's fair. Like, yeah, like starting pitchers absolutely have more impact on games than running backs do. Starting pitchers dictate outcomes of games very often. Running backs, like another reason they haven't gotten paid in recent years, aside from the short shelf lives and the injuries, is it's become very apparent that they're very offensive line dependent. We saw what happened when, like, just one of many examples, the Chargers went from Melvin Gordon to Austin Eckler when Saquon Barkley was hurt for the Giants, that there wasn't that much of a drop off in production. Where if that happens in baseball, like if a team loses a Garrett Cole like the Yankees have, you don't just step up and replace that. So to your point, maybe that's the reason they keep getting paid.
If there's a better comparison, to be honest, as a commenter here on YouTube, like it's like catchers being underpaid. That I think that has more similarity to running backs than pitchers.
I can see that.
Catchers just receive the ball, but they also deteriorate on a similar timeline as running backs do.
Yeah, they do. I also don't think you can just wake up one day and replace them, especially if you have a really good one, kind of the way you can replace a running back.
That's fair, but that's the position we most often see there's not production there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, okay. That's fair. Somebody in the comments on Instagram keeps talking about Tommy Milone, and they want to see Tommy Milone start. I hate to break you this news. As far as I know, Tommy Malone's not in the organization anymore. He's not right now. I don't think he's in AAA. Like that guy.
I don't think he's signed. Period.
Yeah, I think it's like that guy is essentially Casey Lawrence right now. Casey Lawrence is the older arm in AAA, still trying to, finish out his baseball career. And if they need somebody, they may call on him. They may call on Dallas Keuchel. Like there's another one. He just threw 5 shutout innings today in Tacoma. So if they need another spot start at some point and they feel like Dallas Keuchel can do it, they may call on him. Especially, you know what? Let's talk about this for a minute before we get to some other questions. The Mariners are going to have to call up a couple of bullpen arms for this Toronto series. Colin Snyder took the ball off the knee today. I don't know if he's going to hit the IL or not, but they may put him there because he's going to be down for the next 2 to 3 days, and that may be enough to say we cannot be shorthanded in this Blue Jays series bullpen-wise, so we have to go get a couple other arms. This all ties in because I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if they decide they are ready to send Emerson Hancock back to Tacoma, get him some more work, let him develop a little bit more, well, they could call up 2 relievers for a few days and replace Hancock and Snyder. And then you could send one of those relievers back to Tacoma on Saturday if you think Dallas Keuchel is the guy you want to make the start at home and replace Hancock/Wu spot in the rotation temporarily, because it would be his turn anyway. So you could do that for 1 to 2 starts until Wu comes back. But because they need bullpen arms, like, am I on the right line of thinking here that we could see something like that?
I think that is going to happen. And I don't think Emerson Hancock's making his next start in the big leagues. It's probably going to be Dallas Keuchel. I would be shocked if it was anybody else. If like the starts line up, he just threw 5 innings. He's clearly stretched out enough, and he's pitched in the big leagues for a decade plus. That seems like the obvious decision.
Yeah, and it's not going to be long term. Again, Wu's injury is not long term, so it'd be 1 start, maybe 2 if I had to guess. But they need bullpen arms. They very much need bullpen arms. I would guess. So if they're going to call guys up from Tacoma for this series, I would have to think Tyson Miller is going to be one. I don't know who the second is going to be. I know everybody's probably going to say Carlos Vargas. I would say if I had to guess right now, I would say the same thing. I also wonder if they would rather wait to pull him up until they say, okay, he's ready, his command's intact, now he can really help this bullpen, rather than yanking him up and down and up and down. Like they might not want to mess with that.
I'd say I don't think it'd be Carlos Vargas.
Yeah,
okay. Not enough of a need right now. I need to be the last guy in the pen. So that's like that would be more of a luxury to have if he's suddenly turned it on and threw a bunch of strikes.
Okay, so we think Tyson Miller will probably be one, but the second one would either then be Ty Buttrey could be an option, or hey, they could call up our guy, call up Ty Adcock.
So they could do that. Yep, Ty's there and waiting.
Mm-hmm. I bet you it's one of the ties if I had to guess. If it's not going to be Vargas, it'll probably be Buttrey or Hancock. So
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to talk about that briefly.
Here's a fun exercise. Describe today's game in one word.
Disappointing.
Yeah, that's probably a pretty good one. There's probably some more vulgar ways we could do it, but disappointing is a PG way to do it.
I was going to say exhausting, but honestly, no, because we saw where the result of that game was going pretty early. Exhausting games are when, like, they keep you watching long enough where they're climbing back and they're chipping away at a lead and they get close and then they don't quite finish off the comeback and they end up losing. Or when you play a high intensity, like post game, all game, and end up losing. Like, those are really exhausting games. At least with this one, you kind of knew what the result was going to be pretty early on.
Yeah. I want to get to this comment here on Instagram that, I mean, we keep getting, and like, we're going to get this comment as long as the Mariners keep not hitting. They're not going to fire hitting coaches. Like, firing hitting coaches doesn't work. Tell me how it works. Tell me how that works, where how current organizations are structured, where the hitting philosophy starts all the way at the top and is resonated down through every level of the minors, from president of baseball operations down to Modesto. Like, it's all the same idea, the same attack plan. And they're not going to uproot all of that because of a bad 10 days. No, they're not going to do that. It is not just Jarrett DeHart teaching hitting in the organization. It is not just him. There's a lot of people that go into making this offense do what they do.
Right. It's not just DeHart. It's not just Grant Brown. Like, there's a bunch of people. So yeah, it's not linear here, guys. Like, I know that feels like the impulse decision that people want to make, and I know fans often after losses or when you're on social media, it can be easy to just fire off a take. It's much more complicated than that. So, especially when it's 10 games in, like, I think not only do they believe in this offense, like, we still believe in this offense. This is like, I still believe this. This is a very good offense. To be honest, like, the offense looked perfectly capable this weekend. I know, like, here on Sunday, it was just okay. They got a couple runs early, and they had the late home run from Canzone when they were already down a lot. But first two games, offense did what it was supposed to do. They won on Saturday. I know it took them a while against Freddie Peralta on Friday, but they put up runs. Like, there were some positives to take away, even if we're not thrilled that they lost 2-3 in Milwaukee. Like, the offense started to get a little better. So like, I would ease off about the hitting stuff, at least for now.
They need to start hitting for power.
Yeah, they do. And we started.
That's a big mystery.
Well, and in the final 12 innings of the series, we started to see more of it. We saw Canzone go yard. We saw Arias go yard. We saw Polanco go yard. So it's coming. It's coming. But yes, like, Julio not having a home run yet. It's only been 10 games, but obviously you expect him to do a lot. Cal doesn't have a home run yet. Polanco has one. Like, Garver doesn't have one yet. I think it's going to come. Like, do you really think those guys are all going to combine for 15 home runs all year? I don't think so.
No. UConn or Purdue, Lyle?
I don't know. Purdue's got the whole 2019 Virginia thing going on right now, but I feel like UConn is pretty clearly the best team in the country, and they have been all year. So I'm going to say UConn.
Oh, you mean your favorite basketball team of all time?
UConn? Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, I forgot.
Virginia
I was very adamant that
specifically.
team was going to lose extremely early, and then they won it all, which is funny because every year after that, they've done exactly what I always said they did. Choke every postseason because they against teams that actually have offense and they can't score when they get behind. But yeah, that year that take did not go well. But yeah, I'm going to say UConn. Well, who do you have?
Yeah, I'm going to say UConn too. Yeah, they look like a buzzsaw and have for over a year now.
Yeah, that'll be a fun game to watch tomorrow. I mean, we'll have stuff going on tomorrow. We're recording an interview tomorrow that will be out on Wednesday that we're very excited about. I'll leave it at that. The game will be going, like, Mariners Blue Jays first game of the series when the national title's on, and then I think we'll record the rest of our show when all that ends. So tomorrow will be a busy day, but included in that, we'll be watching the national title.
Let's see. Thoughts on Canzone so far? I was really pleased to see. So he hit a home run today, but more importantly, I think it was what he hit his home run on. He hit his home run on spin today.
Mm-hmm.
It was the big thing for Dom last year. Crushed fastballs, didn't hit spin very well. Well, today he got, albeit a middle slider, but it was a slider. It did spin and it did move, and he had it 428 feet, which is a very good sign. I mean, that's the next step for Dom if he's going to become an above average major league hitter. When they throw him breaking balls, he can continue to crush fastballs, but when breaking balls are thrown in the strike zone, at least be serviceable against them. And today was quite a bit above serviceable hitting a ball that far.
Yeah, I'm with that. I think you said that pretty well. And again, I think he's going to be totally fine. I think we've seen some better at bats the last couple days. The home run on the breaking ball was great to see. We still got to remember we're only 10 games in here. I know it wasn't a great week, but very, very small sample. People are asking about Matt Brash's timeline. So I don't know if they've given an exact one yet. In fact, they haven't. They say he is ahead of Gregory Santos. It sounds like roughly early May is what they seem to think with Brash. So they're going to have to survive another few weeks without him. And hopefully they do and everybody stays healthy, because we keep talking about it. When this bullpen is going to be at its full strength, this may be the best one we've ever seen the Mariners accumulate. But two of the dynamite arms are on the shelf right now. So they still got to tread water here.
Yeah. Let's see.
Looking through YouTube.
Yeah, there's a suggestion that they should send Dom down and keep Samad Taylor. I don't think I'd really go that far. Although I do want to see some more Samad Taylor. When Ty comes back, he's going to get sent down. That doesn't mean we're done with Samad Taylor. I'd like to see Samad Taylor continue to get some time on this big league roster. I'm not sure on what role, though. It's probably going to be as a result of an injury, which is unfortunate. But I think Samad Taylor has a chance to be a valuable piece of this roster. It's just not over Dom Kenzo at this point.
And again, it's just about who's it going to be. So to clarify, I think what you said, right, is when Ty France comes off the paternity list, Samad gets sent back, right? Okay, yeah. So again, of the four position players, who's it going to be? Well, or the four bench players, I should say. You've got the backup catcher, which you can't move. It's going to be Zavala. You've got the fourth outfielder, which if you want to call it Rayleigh, if you want to call it Canzone, I don't think those guys are going anywhere. You've got the second, third baseman. So we can call it Luis Urias. I don't think he's going anywhere. And then you've got Dylan Moore, which if Samad Taylor was going to replace anybody because it's a utility role, like that's the type of role he fills. But I've got bad news, people. Dylan Moore is crushing the ball through 10 games. So he ain't going anywhere. Like crushing the ball.
Not sending your best player to AAA.
No.
Best hitter.
Wait. Did you just say that? Your best player? Like not
best hitter. Best hitter.
Does that taste like vinegar in your mouth?
Yeah. Yeah.
Give me hype my guy up like that. Ooh, It's a good day. I sent you something saying he was OPSing like 900 or something like 2 days ago, and you're like,
12 plate appearances.
And then which was your response? Only for Dylan Moore to continue to go off this weekend. So my guy. That's all I can say. Give me a round of applause. That's what I'm saying. You and Jason Churchill can hate his swing all you want and think it's not pretty. Guess what? Guy's putting up offense, just like I said he would. Incredible. I would love to see Samad Taylor get a real role on this team. It's just about where he's going to fit in, because he does a lot, and he's a real spark plug. Whether he comes off the bench to run, play some defense, like he can hit. I'd love to see Samad Taylor get more of a chance. It's just about where you kind of fit him.
So comment, this will relate back to it. Over 900 plate appearances for Kelenic. Maybe let him get 200. I think that is relating to Samad. Probably not the same case, but yeah. Speaking of Kelenic, he's had another good week. Good for him.
Are we going to do this on this live stream? Are you guys all in the comments going to get me in my feels and make me cry here on this live stream? We're going to have to talk about him here.
He's done pretty well. Well, yeah. I guess another example of spring training numbers really don't matter at all. No.
We all knew this was going to happen too. We all knew he was going to go to Atlanta and figure it out.
Not only is he figuring it out, but he's outproducing pretty much the entire Mariners lineup by himself.
Yeah. I mean, obviously he had less pressure there because they're not asking him to be Jared Kelenic, the number 4 overall prospect in baseball that could potentially be a perennial all-star. They're asking him to hit behind a lineup of Ronald Acuna, Matt Olson, Austin Riley, Ozzie Albies, Sean Murphy, and a bunch of others, and just hit righties, play good defense, and do his thing. And it's resulted in him through 10 games. He hasn't played 10 games, but through the Braves playing 10 games, hitting 600.
Yeah,
so
pretty good. Pretty good. And it's not, I don't know. What's his strikeout rate? Do you know strikeout rate?
I haven't looked. You want me to look it up?
Yeah, go for it. Because obviously we looked last year at the beginning. It's no, this is probably unsustainable with the way above average power mark and the fact he's striking out like 35% of the time. What is it? Oh, is it like 10%?
So it's early, and it hasn't updated today. I know today he went 1 for 3. I don't know if he struck out. Jared Kelenic's walking 11% of the time. He's striking out 16% of the time so far. Very funny, dog.
Oh, they fixed him. They fixed him. Good for him.
And they just had to attach contracts in that trade. They just had to do it, didn't they?
Okay, but his value wasn't very high.
Okay, but if you had gone Kelenic alone, I think you could have gotten somebody like Vaughn Grissom back, like how the Red Sox got Vaughn Grissom from Chris Sale. Now, Vaughn Grissom's not a proven commodity, but that's a hell of a lot more value than unfortunately, 2 guys that had Tommy John surgery.
Yeah, well, happy for Jared.
Of course, I'm happy for him. Like, nobody rooted for that guy harder than me, but I just wish he was doing it here still. Like, that jersey is totally gone to waste. That amazing powder blue spring training uniform that you hate but is gorgeous, it's gone to waste.
This was not going to be a place he was going to do that.
Probably not.
No, like the story was like he was not as soon as they traded for Canzone, he was probably done at that point.
I mean, yeah, like if I'm going to put my objective brain back on, yes, and we talked about that. They were going to pick between one or the other. They said Dom's our guy. We understand, but I mean, I don't wish it worked. It hadn't. I wish it worked out here, and 2, again, like this is the part I'm hung up on, and the whole fan base was hung up on when the trade happened. The fact that contracts were attached to it and totally diminished the value they got back from it. It's like what Churchill said. Churchill said that exact same thing. It's again, I think people felt like there was a pretty good chance he was going to get traded this winter. It's attaching the contracts and getting very, very diminished value back. That's the problem. Like, again, if they gotten somebody like Vaughn Grissom back for him, I would have swallowed it a little better.
Before we get to more questions, I think we also have to acknowledge Teoscar Hernandez is destroying the baseball.
Oh, we can just go down the list because so is Gino.
Yeah.
And like Cabby's OPS is low, but when I checked today, he was hitting 300.
Oh, man.
So it's only 10 games, but I remember this happened a little bit last year too when the season started. Like, remember when Adam Frazier got off to that red hot start in Baltimore last year? And
he still ended up having a pretty good year in Baltimore. Remember, he's the most clutch player in baseball last year.
Yeah, and who else did they give up on after 22? That's wise. Because there was a couple other guys that got hot right out of the gate. Oh, Carlos Santana. That was another.
Yeah.
Not gave up on, but like he wasn't back. Like he got off to a hot start, I remember, and maybe there's. But yeah, anyway, there's a lot of Mariners that have gotten off to a hot start right now. Teoscar is another perfect example of going to the landing spot that he went to. It just made too much sense that he was going to return to form because he's been an all-star in the past. He's been a 900 OPS guy in the past. He's crushed lefties his whole career, and he didn't have the year he wanted to have last year. You go to the Dodgers, again, like Kelenic, you're surrounded with superstars and future Hall of Famers in that lineup where you're not expected to be the focal point. You can kind of do your thing. Now, looking at Teoscar's K rate here, it's exactly what. 6% of the time right now, at least entering today, which that will go down, but that lines up a little bit more. He's going to hit homers, but he's going to strike out and he's going to flail out at those breaking balls and sweepers off the plate. But yes, he's hitting home runs and the production's in there so far.
Let's get back to some questions. Are you nervous about our pitching against Toronto? Mariners pitching against Toronto? Not really. For like top 3 in the rotation, and like the Blue Jays haven't been scoring runs here at the start. They have not been very good at scoring runs. They've already been no hit and 1 hit this season, I believe. So,
and I want to say the Mariners also missed Gosman in this series. I think they get Bassett. They
because
get
Gosman was yesterday.
yeah. Well, so they're getting Bassett, they're getting Yusei, and they're getting Barrios. Period. So,
Yeah.
so Mariners top 3. You don't have to face Gosman. Blue Jays aren't piling up runs right now either. I know Toronto's not the easiest place to play, but this does feel like a series where they can take 2 of 3 and turn things around a bit.
Yeah. I think so too. But we'll see. Because the trip to Toronto last year was not good vibes. So,
Well, they won at least a game there last
they
year.
did a game, but they won a game against the Brewers too.
Okay, I was gonna say that was the game where Cal Raleigh had I think he had 2 in a game, or he at least had 1 late, and
John 2 and Tram and the Grand Slam.
Yeah, and then John Schneider after that game in his press conference, remember they asked him about Cal Raleigh, and he's like, "Well, he's not a very tough guy to pitch to." So if Cal hits the home run in this series or has a big hit, we're tweeting that like in quotes, "Not a tough guy to pitch to." Yeah, they 2 or 3 in this series would be great.
Let's see what we got here on YouTube. They remind me about the Kelenic hot start last year. Tom Murphy not starting, which is more conversation here. Don't like Teo. Pisses me off just because he didn't want to be here. He seemed to not even care to try. You know what? I actually think that's different. I think he was trying too hard last year. I think it was the classic case of pressing in a free agent year. And yeah, kind of checked out because he was chasing a lot.
No, of course Teoscar was trying. Like, I wouldn't put those accusations out there against him. Of course he was trying. And by the way, people really liked him in that clubhouse. So I don't think it was that sort of deal. If he didn't want to be here, it's probably because he didn't like the ballpark environment. He thought it was too tough to hit. So it's not that he didn't like the organization. It's not that he didn't like his teammates. He said the total opposite at the end of the year last year. Mm-hmm. He may have just wanted a more hitter-friendly environment, and I don't think the Mariners wanted to give him the $23 million for the year that the
Jays and Mariners are playing exactly alike. Bad fielding, short pens, no hitting by top 3 in the lineup. Yeah.
I mean, look, the Mariners defense is going to continue to be a story. We've talked about this. This offense will figure it out. This rotation is too good to pitch like the way they pitched this week all year. You know, this is probably the best rotation in baseball when everybody's at their best. This bullpen can be the best bullpen in baseball when everybody's healthy. This defense is going to be a story. I mean, you said it 4 games in, and I think you're right. I don't think that much is changing this year. This is what you've got. Defense isn't one of those things that has a bunch of variance game to game, series to series. You're gonna have to play with what you've got, and you're gonna have to hope guys marginally make some improvements.
They're gonna have to like outscore and outpitch that defense somehow, because it might not be a run a game, but depending on the night, it'd be close.
Yeah,
because I mean, today even still makes an impact even when you lose by 8.
Mm-hmm. Like that play in right field for Raley was tough, but like I mean, it's a game of inches, right? And Raley's got more speed than most guys on this team,
right?
So,
but yeah, sometimes you got to make the amazing catches, though. Here's a question: what guys do you give a lineup a jolt? What define jolt? This comment coming on YouTube. Like what kind of jolt would this lineup do? Like we run down the lineup and like what would you change? Are you moving JP out of the leadoff spot? I'm not. No. You moving Julio out of the 2 spot? No, I'm not. Are you moving Jorge Polanco out of the 3 spot? What are you going to put Cal there or Garver there? I'd support that if you wanted to do that. Yeah, but I don't think the Mariners are doing that.
Yeah, and that's a marginal change too. You put Cal 3rd and Polanco 4th and Garver 5th, or Garver 4th and Polanco 5th. That's not all that different. Like that's not a jolt. That's just a reconstruction of the lineup a little bit.
And then you don't jolt the lineup by shuffling around the bottom 4 in the lineup. So at that point, like the conversation feels like ends at that point.
So if you mean by jolt either making a trade or hoping somebody comes up from the minors. Again, like the guys that would make an impact in the minors are still a bit away. Cole Young is going to have an unbelievable year in Double-A to get up by the end of the year. And look, I think there's a world where the last couple weeks of the season, if the Mariners are in it, we may see him. But it's going to be a very specific circumstance. Like he has to like blow Double-A pitching out of the water this year to get that shot. And aside from him, and aside from Tyler Locklear, who's going to have to play close to a full season in Double-A too, there's not guys knocking on the door right now. You have your Todd Taylors, you have your Sam Haggertys, you have guys in AAA who you're going to see in the big leagues this year. But Ryan Bliss may get called up at some point. That's probably the one that's closest to the doorstep. But it's not going to be some promotion from the minor leagues, and nobody's making trades 10 games in. So, like, I don't exactly know what the jolt would be. If that makes sense.
I'm with you. It just doesn't make much sense at this point.
Right. Yeah. I'm with that.
So we talked about, there's a question here on YouTube that we talked about on our last podcast. I recommend you guys go check out the Friday episode. At what point would you worry about Castillo? Didn't finish last year great. Believe he's still elite, but he's getting older and not off to a great start this year. Initially, again, I'm not really worried about Castillo this year. The underlying stuff is fine. It's similar to what he's done in years past. So I really wouldn't, I would just preach some patience with Luis Castillo. If you want a reason, he gave up home runs. That's why his outings have looked like they are. If he doesn't give up home runs, I'm sure they'll be significantly better. The stats will look better, and the Mariners will have way better chance of winning the game. If he doesn't give up those home runs, his ERA right now is under 3. And then everyone's like, oh, he's fine. Right? There you go.
If Luis Castillo has a 5.5 ERA on June 1st, let's talk that. But if you're going to be worried about pieces of this team, it shouldn't be Luis Castillo. He's going to be totally fine. Don't be shocked if he comes out tomorrow and spins a really good start. I don't think people should be sitting around and worrying about, is he about to fall off? Is he about to decline? Like, no, he just didn't get off to the greatest start in his first 2 outings. Like, he'll be fine. If everybody, you should be just about the least worried about Luis Castillo. So he'll be good.
Okay, let's get a couple more in here before we wrap up. Service wanted a hot start this year. He's going to make moves faster than in previous years. His job depends on it this year. So we've talked about this. His, like you said, his job depends on it. It's not in terms of getting fired. It's just in terms of the fact that both Jerry and Scott are lame duck right now. They don't have a contract for next year. Neither of them do. And we don't know who's if it's on Jerry and Scott's side or if that's on the Mariners side. We're not sure. But certainly could be it. Like if he feels like they need to win a little bit more. I don't know what Scott would do. I feel like that would be a little bit more of a Jerry thing because there's only so much Scott can do as a manager. And his decisions, as we've noticed here in the early goings, have been pretty uniform with what he's done in the past. So I think that idea would be more of a Jerry thing.
Yeah, I'm with that. And when we've seen these guys get extended in the past, it's usually pretty late into their contract year. It's usually August or September. That's what happened in 2021. That's what happened in 2018. They may wait and see and wait around till after the trade deadline this year to make their decision. But the difference with this time is, to your point, maybe it is more on Dipoto's side. Like maybe he is hesitant for now. So it's going to be a storyline this year. I'm sure it's not going to be the last time we talk about it. I'm sure it's not going to be the last time you guys have questions about it, which is perfectly fine. It's a story for a reason, but we may not have a lot of answers. So there are actually details that come out about it.
Let's do one more. I'll let you choose the last one.
Okay, let's see. Let's see if we got any other good ones. I mean, there's people are still talking about Kelenic in the YouTube comments. Let's see if we got. One person asked, Harry Ford, is he a call-up candidate? And he's in the same boat as like Cole Young. He'd have to have a phenomenal year to get up this year, and that would be very late in the season. So like Harry Ford and Cole Young aren't coming anytime soon because they just got Double-A. But
And I feel like Harry has a little bit more developing still to do at the plate than Cole does. So I feel like Cole has the mix of on base and power, at least relative to his hitting profile. Harry's got to hit for a little bit more power. He's still slugging in the low 400s, and they probably want to see that get a little bit higher, to be honest.
here's a good one. Here's a good one to wrap up on. This is from Aiden. Shout out to Aiden on Instagram. Ooh, could Ryan Stanek be a sell high candidate at the deadline this year? Let me say this. If they're selling pieces off at the deadline again, I might have to delete Twitter. Not even because I'm going to be tweeting things. I can't read the discourse again if they do something like that. I really hope they're not in a position where they're making moves like that. Let's just hope they are winning and are actually focused on the playoffs and making a run in the playoffs, which you need a very good bullpen to do. I mean, like anything's possible, but like let's hope the answer to that is no, because that's not a good sign if he is starting to have rumors circle around him getting traded.
It doesn't feel like selling's even an option at the deadline, in my humble opinion. Like I don't think that should be an option for how this organization is in the year of this regime. Should not be allowed. Right?
Yeah.
Like it's been too many years.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you chalk up to the math. What, year 9 now for Jerry? Yeah, 9? Yeah, 9. 9 years, and then they'd sell at the deadline again in year number 9. When again, this is supposed to be the World Series window right now, as they said. World Series contention, not selling a deadline. So there would be a lot of other things. I think honestly, here's the great way to frame this. There would be a lot more important things to discuss at that point than the trade value of Ryan Stanek. Yeah. If we actually made it to that point, that's what the discussion would be. Not Ryan Stanek. It'd be a lot of other things.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Well, it's been fun. Again, whether it be a win or loss, always a lot of fun. Yeah. For all of you joining us on YouTube and Instagram, been an absolute pleasure. If you're watching on Instagram, haven't subbed to our YouTube yet, please go do that. I know we have about 5,000 more on Instagram than YouTube. So that means all of you can't possibly be subscribed to our YouTube. So go over there and subscribe. And if you're on YouTube, don't know we're on Instagram, we'll do that as well. Every Sunday night, we'll be right here answering your questions. And whatever thoughts you have on the Mariners, just one big party, one big hangout here on our Instagram and YouTube channels. For Lyle, I'm TJ. Thanks again for hanging out with us. I think we'll talk to you guys again next week.